So my second real job was working at an amusement park in one of the food stalls. This job happened around a month or so after I quit the boba store I worked at. And the only real reason to why I even considered it, besides being broke and needing a part-time job, was because one of my friends at the time worked in the park as well. Looking back at it, it was already a disaster before I even started working there, since the park was located a very short 1-hour public transport ride away, which I know doesn't sound bad to some people that might live on the outskirts of cities or, on the countryside, but I live 20 minutes away from the capital. So for me, traveling an hour for work was obscene. This didn't stop me, however, as I went on to get interviewed by the owner of the little stall. The stall mainly sold whatever small foods and snacks you'd get at an amusement park. Like cotton candy, churros, soft ice cream, popcorn, you know the drill. The jobs themselves were fine. Some of them were hard to figure out at first, but it was mostly manageable. The real issue began when I started working there. In total, I worked there 5 times. And to be honest, I don't remember the individual shifts at all. My brain works that way most of the time. Whenever there be an event or memory that caused me immense stress, it just yeets it out of my system and I barely remember any part of it. So going through each individual day is going to be impossible since, I don't remember most of it. But I remember some key factors that my brain just has neglected to forget. Main one being my boss. So each stall of the amusement park had its own system and owner, and the stalls had full control of how they ran things, sort of like normal stores had. In the food stall I worked at, let's just call it Benny's to make it easier, we had 2 bosses, a son and his mother. The son, who had 2 children of his own, just to give you an idea of his age, took care of most of the back office manager stuff, like managing shifts and paychecks and whatever. He'd work at the front a few times, and he was nice enough. He gave off nice uncle energy, pretty chill. His mother, though. Oh my god. Oh god, his mother. AKA my boss. Yes, she was sent straight from hell. This one day, I was set to stand outside right across the stall to sell balloons and off-brand toys and stuff. If you've seen an amusement park, you know how the balloon stand looks. Usually all blown up and attached to a cartwheel or something, which is what theirs look like as well. They're all strung by yarn. Now, this yarn was evil. This is evil yarn. This was incredibly hard to cut and impossible to rip, which they expected you to do with your bare hands. This one time, trigger warning for this one if you're squeamish, I was so stressed about not being able to find the scissors that I decided screw it and ripped it with my hands. Proceeded to then rip open my finger with the yarn instead. The yarn, by the way, stayed completely intact even though it sawed through my damn finger. So that was great. Anyways, back on track. This one day I was stationed outside, and it might have been the first day I was put outside because I was still very new to the balloon system. So as mentioned, these balloons were held together by yarn, and how it worked was you'd rip the yarn of a set balloon and tie it to this little metal ring that kids could hold on to. This ring was heavy enough to make the balloon stay put when you let go. So when this one family wanted a balloon, I just did the usual protocol and gave them the balloon. To say I freaked out would have been the understatement of the century. The parents were quite upset, reasonably so to some degree, as they stood there with their crying son, and I immediately reached over to give them a new one. That's when the stress of the whole situation really started to hit. I was tying like 20 extra knots on the metal ring, and my eyes were so filled with tears that when I bent over, they just succumbed to gravity and just fell out of my eyes. Oh god. In the beginning, it was the mother who was most upset about the whole situation, but after taking just, one measly look at my pathetic face, she just started to worry. It was by this time that my hands started shaking like crazy, trying my best not to sob, and apparently, according to the woman standing next to me, I was completely pale, like sweating, unable to focus, shaking like a leaf pale. Immediately, the parents' demeanor changed from upset to worried. The mom started asking me if I'd eaten or drunk anything that day, and if I needed to call over my boss or a coworker, and god, it was so embarrassing. I swear to god, I was fighting every cell in my body not to pass out on the spot. I kid you not. Physically telling myself not to die in front of the customers and to at least wait till I get to the bathroom. After the family left, another lady came over and asked if I was okay, which didn't help the waterworks show I was putting on. She ended up showing me an easier way to tie the balloon ring, which was so much more efficient and like 100% decrease in stress and breakdowns, which I'll take any day. Thank you so much, lady. I really appreciate it. I don't even remember how it ended, but I think I asked to go to the bathroom after the customers had left. That in itself, by the way, caused my boss to genuinely get angry at me. She asked me who I thought was supposed to cover me, and usually people ask those types of questions as like a joke or something like, haha, who do you think is gonna cover you? But she was genuine. This woman was insane. And when she eventually let me go, I cried in the bathroom for a good 10 minutes. So as mentioned, I'd only managed to work 5 shifts in total, and I believe it to be around the first or the second shift where my friend from school showed me a TikTok video that was going viral in our country. Huh. Her description of her absolutely terrible boss sounds so familiar. I wonder if she mentions anything in the comment section. Oh! Yeah, so turns out my boss went semi-viral because of her absolutely terrible professionalism. The girl in the video mentioned how one boss would make her do a task and the other nightmare boss would yell at her for doing an important task, even though her son made her do them. Another thing she mentioned was how she got fired, which happened when my nightmare boss accused her of stealing money that went missing from the register, which is when the girl just decided to quit on the spot. One would think that this should have been the biggest red flag being waved directly in my face, but I was too desperate for a job to have any self-respect left. So I stayed until the 5th shift where I was like, yeah, no amount of money is worth this. Because fun fact about this job, they charged way more than any other chain would. Like, way more. Which again, giant red flag being aggressively shoved into my face. Best part was when this woman would complain that none of her employees returned for another season, which was why she hired so many of her family members. She's the type of person that is either unbelievably oblivious to the fact that the call is in fact coming from inside the house, or she knows and she just doesn't want to change her behavior in any way, shape, or form, instead just making the external factors outweigh the terrible internal ones, that being her behavior. Anyways, I don't remember the specific action that made me quit, but I'm pretty sure it was the same day of the balloon incident. I just remember standing by the churros machine and thinking, yeah, hell no. I told my male boss that I simply couldn't do it anymore and blamed it on the distance, which I mean wasn't a complete lie, but it definitely wasn't the main reason, that's for sure. And how did my nightmare boss react to this information? I heard you quit. Oh, yeah, the distance is a lot. I just don't think it'll work out. I told you the distance might be an issue when I hired you, yet here we are. Nah, f this place and f you. I literally never hope to see you again, oh my god. However, I still had a month of shifts left, so I knew that I'd sadly have to endure 4 more weeks of passive-aggressive remarks and horrible rushes and... Oh. Well, that works for me.